Hey guys, John at level9sports.com, and we are figuring out how to mount a snowboard binding onto a snowboard. First of all, you need to figure out what your stance is, whether you're regular, which is left foot forward, or goofy, which is right foot forward. And Rich is going to help me figure out if I'm regular or goofy.
Peaceful thoughts.
Alright, so I just caught my weight with my left foot, so I'm putting that forward, which is called regular, again. And if you want to slide over here, this is what you need to install the bindings. Your bindings for a bag of goodies with the bindings and a screwdriver. And as I like to say, if you know how to use a screwdriver, you can install your own snowboard bindings. It's that easy. So now that we know I'm regular, I'm putting my left foot forward. This is the front of the board, tail of the board. And a lot of the time, bindings are right and left foot specific. So I'm putting my left binding up here, front of the board, and back binding back here. These discs go right in the middle, and they line up with the pre-drilled holes in your snowboard.
How do you know how wide to set the bindings apart?
So Rich's question, how wide do you set them apart? And it's really personal preference. To start out, it's about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit beyond that. And you can even stand on the board before you start this process and put your feet about where they're comfortable on the board, and then maybe even make a mark with a Sharpie or something, and then that's where you want your binding stand up. So, let's do this. Got the screws out.
So am I supposed to put my bindings straight? I see people use them at angles.
Yeah, rather than having the binding exactly perpendicular to the length of the board, you usually want to angle it out a little bit for the front foot, and your back foot is about perpendicular to the board. You can't even angle it out a little bit if you want. And all that is mostly personal preference, but it kind of hurts your knees if they're angled in and you're flexing your knees. Usually it kind of hurts them. So if you're doing anything, angle them out. And sometimes snowboard bindings come with washers that are too thick for the screw length. So just check it. Let's make sure it's actually going to go through far enough. That's more than enough room to grab the teeth of the inserts in your board. And you just want to place it in there loose for now. Don't crank it down just yet, because it oftentimes sets off the holes for the rest of the binding. Then it's harder to get it screwed in at the very end.
What if the screws aren't long enough with the washer?
You can either find a thinner washer or even remove the washer entirely. Snowboard binding screws loosen up pretty quickly whether there's a washer there or not. So just whatever you decide, you do need to check the screws all over the entire binding very, very frequently, even every time you go out. So the front binding's on there good, nice and tight. That's ready to go. Then repeat the process for the back binding. Same deal, tighten it down, you're ready to ride.